Scroll saw. This is a King industrial scroll saw. I really like this scroll saw because of how long this is from here to here. It allows you to do very big pieces of wood that you can cut on here. With we have a smaller scroll saw. It's a delta, and the distance between here and here is a lot shorter. So it really limits on what you can do. This just gives you more room to put another piece of wood in there, bigger piece of wood in there, and do some cuts on it. I like this scroll saw. It's really smooth. I like the mechanism for putting on the blade. It's pretty simple. The one I have at home, the two I have at home actually are smaller. I have a Dremel scroll saw, and then I have a cheap Craftsman scroll saw that I picked up at a Goodwill store. I got it for 20 bucks. So sometimes you find those deals. You can find them on Craigslist all the time for 50 bucks, which is not a bad deal. If you have the wherewithal and you wanted to purchase a scroll saw, you can definitely do it for under $100. Like I said, I picked one up, which I use regularly, is the cheap Craftsman, because you can actually turn the blade around and come in sideways, so it works really well. This scroll saw has a couple things I'm going to go over so that you guys can come back and watch this video once I post it, and if you miss something or I go too fast, you'll be able to watch it over again. So pay attention, but you will be able to watch it over and over. It was recording. Okay, now it's recording. All right. So this knob right here is an adjustment knob. What it does is it tightens this, so it raises it to put tension, so it goes down and it comes up. Okay, that's to put tension on the blade. This right here is the control knob for speed. Okay, it just makes the blade go faster or slower. This one right here is the on and off switch. Okay, this is the air hose. Now I wanted to talk about the air hose because I only have one of these left. And I'm going to be taking it off and putting it away, and if you need to use the air hose, you need to ask for it. Okay, once we get it back in the classroom, because I only have one left. People take them off, they snap right off, throw them around the room, throw them in the trash, so I only have one left. So I'm going to take it off. If you want to use the air hose, you got to ask for it. All right, this is the tension lever right here. Okay, that puts the initial tension on the blade. You could also do it with the adjustment knob in the back and answer your question. All right, on this side over here is a butterfly nut. That's what holds the blade in, and I'll show you that once I make an adjustment to the other camera. This is the table. This is the upper arm right here. This has a lower arm down here. Down here has an arm that goes all the way this way. Okay, that's the lower arm, upper arm, lower arm, table, stand. So the parts you'll have to know. Down in front here, you can't see it, but it also has a lever that loosens the table, so the table can tilt one way or the other. If you're making some kind of a bevel cut or an angle cut, you can adjust the table to whatever degree you want. It's just a lever that loosens and you move the table. All right, so I talked about the butterfly nut. That's right here. The blade comes into that. I can have to adjust the tension on this thing, so hold on a second. Can you see it lower down? Okay. So it's got to be low enough. It's got to be low enough for the blade to slip into this little slot here, and then the butterfly tightens up on it. You have to make sure you got it, and it's tight enough so that it's not going to come off. Then you put the tension on it, and if it's still loose, see it's still loose. So we're back. Okay, so again, butterfly nut tension. You can hear it. Okay, that's about the sound you want to hear before that thing will pop off. So you got to make sure that it's got pretty much tension. Now the air hose is going to go right about there. I want to reiterate that this is very, very important. It's probably the #1 rule when it comes to working in the shop, working with power tools, working with anything that has the potential to cause you damage or you injury. Never, ever look away. If you're going to get hurt in the shop, if you're going to get hurt at work, it's because you're not paying attention to what you're doing and you're looking away, or you're not being aware of your surroundings and you're not aware of what's going on. And that's the same thing in the shop. Anything can happen in any place in this building, and you have to be aware of what's going on, what are you close to, the machine that you're operating. You never want to look away. So here's the deal. If I'm operating this machine and I'm looking down at where my hands are, and someone calls my name, now I don't know where my hands are, right? I can move my hand right into the path of the blade, and then I got myself, okay? This machine right here is not going to cut you badly. It won't. It will cut you, but it's not something that you're gonna lose a finger on or anything like that, because it just doesn't go that fast, and the blades are really tiny, so it's not gonna really get you. Unless for some reason you get so distracted that you just force your finger into the blade. Otherwise, it's just not gonna happen. Okay, so again, the number one rule, always in the shop, never look away, always be aware of your surroundings. And that means where you're walking, what you're close to, who's around you working with tools, or who's working on a machine. You never want to be in a place where you're distracted and not aware about what's going on, because anything can happen. So you really need to be aware. Okay, so number one rule, never ever look away. That's it. Anytime I've had guys get injured in the shop, and there's been 3 in 28 years, okay, I'm a real stickler when it comes to safety and how you operate tools. The reason they've gotten injured is because, 1, they were operating a tool when they hadn't been checked off on it. 2, they looked away. That was it. One guy damaged his thumb pretty bad on the table saw. Another guy got cut on the scroll saw. I'm sorry, on the bandsaw, and then another guy got cut on the bandsaw. So both of those guys that got cut on the bandsaw, they got cut because they looked away right after they went through safety, and we went through the number one rule, which is never ever look away. Okay, so you need to get that. Always pay attention, and I'm going to stress that over and over every time we go to a new tool. I'm going to keep stressing that as we go. Okay, it has an on and off switch here. Okay, right now it's off, right now it's on, but you notice nothing is happening. Okay, even if I move this one way or another, nothing is happening. It's because this particular saw has a foot pedal, and it's down here by my foot. I'm not going to move my camera so you can see it, but it's down by my foot. Once I press down, the saw engages. Okay, the speed control right here, the speed control allows it to go faster and slower. And when you start, you don't really need it to go that fast. So just put it right about there and you should be good. Okay. One of the main things about this is you want to try to keep your fingers out of this area. Okay, this circle right here, try to keep your fingers away. And by all means, never put your fingers in line with the blade. Okay, you don't ever want to put your fingers in line with the blade because anything can happen. So as long as you put your fingers out to the side, you should be fine. I want to show you something, okay? I can touch the back of this blade and it's not going to cut me. But if I was to do that on the front, then it would cut me. So as long as I stay out of the front area, I'm going to be fine. Okay? Now the other thing you don't want to do with this is you don't want to let it do that. Okay? You always want to put pressure downwards to the table. Downwards to the table. Pressure down. Okay? That's going to stop it from doing that. Bouncing around. And it happens as you're moving, making your cut. Sometimes you just let your fingers off, you know, a little bit too much, and then it'll start bouncing around. And if that happens, just take your foot off the pedal and the blade will stop. All right? So it's important. Now, there's 4 of these scroll saws in the shop. 3 of them have foot pedals. The other foot pedal stopped working right there. Okay, it fits really great. Now you can do all kinds of things with the scroll saw. You can cut people's names out. You can cut Christmas ornaments, decorations. We used this for our scroll saw project. I mean our, remember this? This was the cell phone stand that I was working on. But what I want to show you is I'm going to go ahead and cut another one of these out. I'm going to darken this up so you can see the line I'm cutting. Now, depending on the project, as long as you're close to what you want, you can make that cut. I'm going to go off camera for a second, drill a hole real quick. Okay, so I have this hole. What I'm going to do is loosen the tension. Loosen the tension. Then I'm going to take and disconnect the blade, just like I did right there. Put the blade through the hole that I did. Then reconnect it. And you have to make sure that it gets all the way back into the back where the butterfly nut is going to grab that. And then you can retighten. Okay? Now I'm going to cut this out and just show you how easy this is. The air hose goes right about there, so it's going to blow all that sawdust out of the way so I can see. Again, you want to hold it down. I'm going to come to that line and stop. Then I'm going to come back. And once I get that piece cut, I need to turn this machine off so that I can get that piece out of there. Okay, because I don't want it stuck in between what I'm doing and the blade, because then we have all kinds of issues going on. So I want to make sure that I get it out. So once I get it out, now I can go ahead and clean up that area right there that I need to clean up. So I cut it that way. Cut that way. And you can actually just use it like a sander and just go back and forth. Okay, now I got that area all cleaned up. Then turn it around and go the other way. Now notice that I always keep my fingers on the sides of the blade. I never put them in the front of the blade, because I want to stay away from that as much as possible. So once I get it cut, now I can back it out of this saw because it's not a big distance and it's not going to pull the blade away. On the bandsaw, you won't be able to do that, and we'll get to that later. So I'm going to go ahead and make that turn. Make sure that cut all the way, so I'm going to come back this way. There we go. Okay, also this moves all the way up. Okay, so you can get it out of the way, take your project out, comes back down, and the whole process begins again. As you can tell, I got a pretty decent cut. Okay, it's a lot faster than cutting with a coping saw. It's a lot cleaner cut. I have less sanding to do because it's a lot cleaner cut. So a very useful tool in the shop that you'll be able to use once you get back in class. This bottom half of the scroll saw, and it has this adjustment here. It also has a bottom blade chuck down here with a butterfly nut, and that's where you got to put the blade in at the bottom. It has this guard so you don't reach in there right? Okay, this just turns. You got to loosen it, then this turns it so you get to zero. So you can go back and forth from 45 to 45, and then you can get to zero. You got to tighten it back down, and then you're good to go at the bottom. Okay, so this just turns and it runs along this gauge right here and allows the table to swing one way or the other. So right here is the tension lever. Anytime you're changing the blade, you want to make sure that the tension lever is this way, or else it's not going to go on there. This is the blade chuck. This is a butterfly nut that holds the blade in. This is your blade right here. You got to make sure that the teeth are pointing down. And if I rub my finger against the blade, if I can't see the teeth, sometimes these are very, very small, and it grabs my finger as I go up, that means the teeth are pointing down. As I rub my finger going up, and it catches my finger, that means that the teeth are going down. One of the main things is trying to get this connected so that it's tight. So you got to make sure that it's seated all the way back where the butterfly nut comes in and hits the blade. And sometimes it's harder than other times. So there you go. So I've got a pretty good tension on there. That's about the sound that you should get when you're setting that. The air hose is right here. You want to adjust that. Now remember that the on and off switch is here, the speed control switch is here, and the foot pedal's down at the bottom. So I could turn it off, hit the foot pedal, and nothing happens. If I turn it on and hit the foot pedal, it begins to start moving. Okay? So I'm going to make a random cut just on this piece just so that you can see it cut. One of the main things is that you don't want it to bounce like that. So you want to make sure that you hold it down and against the table as you're cutting. Also, you want us to keep your fingers outside of this circle. Just a safety precaution, keep your fingers outside the circle. You shouldn't have your fingers in line with the blade, because that you could slip off and then go into the blade, and then you've got yourself cut. This saw is not going to cut you severely. It will cut you. You depending on how much pressure is going forward. So if you're applying pressure down and forward, you could always slip off and get your finger into the blade. So you got to make sure that your fingers aren't in line with the blade. In case you slip, they're going to slip off the side. Okay? So I'm going to make a cut. You can cut pretty much on a dime. Turn it pretty tight. You hear it start to whine a little bit. That's probably the maximum radius that you're going to be able to cut. So as long as you keep it down, and the other thing is you want to slow down at the end of the cut so you make a nice smooth cut and you're not jerking forward as you cut. Again, keep your fingers outside of here. Don't put your hand in line with the blade. Adjust the speed. You can adjust the speed to go faster depending on the type of wood that you're cutting or the blade that you have in there. So you got to adjust the speed to make sure that it's going to cut properly.